Councillor Geddes.
I noticed, Chair, on page 12, they're asking, the applicant is asking for, firstly, on the basis of an assessment of the reviewed documents only, with no further procedure, but by means of an inspection of the land, which is subject of the review. I would move, sir, in fact, that we don't accede to the second request for a site inspection, and that we determine it on the basis of the written submissions before us today.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dryburgh.
Happy to agree with that. Second, Councillor Geddes on that.
Thank you. Anybody otherwise minded? No, thank you. Carry on. Got the notes of C.R. Smith on grounds for appeal. Thought I'd highlight them separately. Anything there? They do raise the point in their grounds of appeal that the main garden ground is to the front of this property rather than the rear as the norm. But when you look at the pictures, I think you'll notice there's quite a large extension built on the rear of the house. Any issues? Right, go to item 2, report on handling, page 21 onwards. Nobody any issues? Item 3, page 27, observations of appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review. Geddes.
Perhaps get some clarification, sir, because if my reading of the case officer's report is correct, Chair, the case officer states that the application should be refused due to failing, firstly, GP1, secondly, GP19A and E, and thirdly, SPG number 2. Whereas the appointed officer's observations make no mention of GP1 nor of GP19E. So there would appear to be, if my understanding is correct, sir, and I'm reading it correctly, there would appear to be something of a slight discrepancy. I don't know if you'd wish to have Mr. Sutty or whoever comment on that, Chair.
Mr. Sutty, would you like to comment on that, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, General Policy 1 is obviously the general development principle, which applies really to all planning applications. It is usually mentioned when dealing with household or development, but the principal policy for determination is really General Policy 19, which is the one specific to domestic extensions. So obviously what I think the appointed officer has done here is focus in on those issues in particular, because General Policy 1 really is a very broad brush policy, looking at general amenity concerns.
Can I say, Chair, I'm happy with the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the notice of review? 4, comments of applicant and observations of the appointed officer, page 31 onwards. Councillor Maitland. I'll just address the first paragraph there, where they talk about the front of the house being the main garden area, which would usually be at the rear. And again, I draw your attention to the house extension at the rear of the house. I don't know how long these people have been resident in this house, whether they've been there a long time and they put the extension on or not. But Councillor Maitland?
Well, actually, the issue that I didn't completely understand was the design of the proposal with respect to use of polycarbonate sheeting on the roof, which creates a discordant look to the principal elevation. I'm really sorry. I accept I'm going back one section, Chairman, although it does come through obviously later on. But that's right. That's right. Also, page 29. I'm not completely clear why that has been introduced as a reason. Because I mean, you would expect to see polycarbonate on the roof of a conservatory. That's quite separate to the issue of whether the conservatory itself overwhelms the principal elevation. But I'm just interested that should have been introduced at all as a detail And I'm not completely clear why that.
Just looking at the actual specific grounds for refusal on page 25, they do say the design, massing and materials. So I think maybe it was considered in the case officer or the appointed officer's mind that the use of that material and maybe that volume of material on a front elevation was of concern. I think it is probably relevant that they have given that ordering, that it is design, massing and materials.
Going back to 33, page 33, sir, which is the response, as it were, the comments of the applicants on the observations of the appointed officer. An interesting statement there in subparagraph 2, when they talk about conservatories are regularly approved for planning when they are in excess of 50% of the length of the property. My comment to that would be, well, where's your evidence? But as I say, I would I'd let it be at that, merely make the observation.
I think when you look at the proposal for the house extension, when you see the roof is up above the guttering level of the house, the extension is above that. That's maybe why the planning officer would be looking for a similar finish to that of the house. Anybody, anything else on that item? Planning application form, item 5, page 35 onwards. Item 6, decision letter from Dumfries and Galloway Council dated 27th August 2013, page 47 onwards.
Well, so long since I've done one of these, Chair, I'm really seeking your guidance because I'm tempted to say at this moment in time what my view on the case officer's decision is. Is it appropriate to make that comment at this moment, or do you wait until you go through section 7 as well? I'd be grateful for the refresher.
Item 7 is relating to the local plan. Do you want to pick it up on that, or do you want to? You can address the refusal, and we'll take it to there, Alistair.
I was just going to say, Chair, I think it's appropriate to go through the papers and then come back with the sort of detailed information that members would have.
Well, we're itemising we're going through the various sections. If you've got questions in that section, I'd ask you to raise them now. Councillor Maitland, do you want to come in?
I did ask the officer this question earlier, but I'm not entirely clear because it's not clear to me. Page 55, GP 19A.
We're not into that section yet. We're
Oh,
still
I thought we were on page. I thought we were on section 7.
6. Sorry.
Oh,
Refusal of planning permission. Is there anything on the refusal? Any questions on that?
Noted at this stage, Chair.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's touched what Councillor Maitland raised earlier, just about the design, massing and materials, and obviously the response from David about the order in which those appear. And the key one so far looks to be the massing, because the design arguably is an aesthetic, and the materials obviously might be quite commonplace. So it's really just, is this the time to sort of start discussing that type of thing, or is it just to note these and then come back later?
If you want to discuss it now, I'm quite happy to take it now. We're going through section at a time, so unless there's a relevant planning item you want to discuss.
Well, I suppose it would just be a wee bit of clarity on, is design, massing and material taken as a standard response, or does it mean, you know, like if any one of those boxes are ticked, would it be design, massing and material, or is it on all three aspects, if that makes any sense? Is it a composite reason for rejection rather than it's each of those?
Sorry, it'll be the whole extension we're looking at for the massing and the design of the extension as well. The roof elevation might be the most appropriate part, albeit the size of it as well, with that such mass. And the materials was the polycarbonate that may be on the roof and its relationship to the slates of the roof of the cottage. Does that cover it, Mr. Sutty?
Yes, I mean, I think if Councillor Thompson's query is that as a panel, you're maybe unhappy with one of those three issues, then have you got to consider it as an entity? No, it is basically open to yourselves as a panel to go through the issues, and if you think that the case officer gave too much weight to something and you disagree, then you can vary the decision. So, for example, you could refuse it on design and massing and miss out materials. That's entirely open to yourselves.
Thank you. That's the clarity I was looking for. Thank you.
Nobody else on that section? Right, move to section 7, relevant extracts from the Ministry of Local Plan and a copy of the supplementary design guidance number 2, design guidance for the built environment. Councillor Geddes?
If you go to page 62, sir, and you'll see the side heading D, extensions and alterations to buildings. As far as I'm concerned, that's extremely germane indeed to what we're considering here today, and it's helpful.
Anyone else want to comment? Councillor Maitland?
Well, what I was just going to make absolutely certain in my mind is that presumably that is what Appendix 1 was all about. That's, if I can be absolutely sure, because if you think about it, Appendix 1 no longer exists per se, but it's subsumed into that design guidance that we're now given, I am assuming.
Yes, I mean, basically, I think Appendix 1 still does exist within the local plans, but to avoid unnecessary repetition, the section that Councillor Geddes has just referred to on page 62, D, extensions and alterations to buildings, that is effectively Appendix 1. The relevant section has now been subsumed into the supplementary planning guidance.
Anything else they want to raise under the planning guidance? And you've got the photographs at the back from page 67 onwards. Oh, if you've got it for a big screen, yes, so much the better.
Thank you, Chair. Well, these are just exactly the same photos that you have in your papers at the very end. So the first photo just shows what we'd regard as the principal elevation. That's the front elevation. It is just a grassed and planted garden at the moment. That's looking around at the side elevation, and as you can see, there has been a previous extension to the building already added, and basically fairly sympathetic materials. You've got a roofing material which is similar to slate, if not actual slate. And you've got patio doors on the front, as well as the main front door is just in that photo there. You can see that gives a good view along where the conservatory would be sited, and that's looking again the other way, where the conservatory would just be sited on the centred around the patio doors.
Okay, we're now open for discussion. Councillor Geddes?
Well, I'll cut to the chase, Chair, and in making the comment, I'm not trying to treat this with anything other than the seriousness that it warrants, but in my view, quite simply, sir, the case officer has got this decision right, and comprehensively so, and my view would be that we should repel the appeal, for want of a better term, and uphold the case officer's decision on the basis of the reasons stated at page 50 of the paper.
Thank you for that. Just need to say, I take it, what you have to do is decide if you have sufficient information to make that determination. Councillor Dryborough and Councillor May.
I think we do have enough information to make that decision. I'll be quite happy to agree with what Alistair says.
Thank you. Councillor Maitland?
Yes, I'm very happy to as well. I mean, the argument given that this was not the main frontage of the house, and that it was also remote, seemed to me not to carry weight in this particular issue. That's not an issue. I'm very happy to go along with the fact that this does intrude on the main frontage of the house in an inappropriate manner. I think we've got the decision absolutely right. And I'm also happy to go along with the materials idea too, because that's also in that initial decision.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson, you quite comfortable with that?
More or less. I mean, I think my only possible area of question would have been around how much weight to give the aspect that it was quite an isolated house, etc., in terms of the, and also just pointing out on page 62, the guidance on the extensions and alterations. You could arguably sort of say that normally you would expect certain things to be done in a certain way, but I don't think in this particular case that it should be given any more weighting than it currently has. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Geddes?
Just in the back of Stephen's comment there, sir, I did mean to mention it at the time. Page 29, paragraph 5, Patrick Hanna, the senior, the riposte, for want of a better term, to me was very much in point when he says remoteness of a site from the public road does not in itself justify approval of substandard design. Indeed, to routinely permit poor design in remote countryside locations would send entirely the wrong message about the need to protect the character of the countryside. And that, to me, is very, very much in point. So.
I would totally agree with that, Councillor Geddes. Right, we're all in agreement that we refuse this application.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Paula?
The local review body has determined to refuse the appeal, uphold the planning decision on grounds set out as in the notice of refusal.
Yes, I have no other business. Thank you all very much for your attendance.